Welcome back to my channel. You felt her slip away long before she actually said the words. That quiet shift in her tone, that sudden coldness, that moment you realized you were trying harder while she wasn't trying at all. And then she rejected you, clean, final, decisive. Yet here she is again, circling back into your life like a ghost who refuses to stay buried. You're not imagining it. You're not overthinking it. Women do come back after rejecting a man. And the reason why is far more psychological, far more primal, and far more unsettling than anyone ever taught you to see. Because what nobody told you is this: rejection is rarely as final as it feels. When a woman walks away, she isn't always walking towards something better. Many times she's walking into uncertainty, into confusion, into choices she isn't sure she can trust. And while you sit there believing the rejection meant you weren't enough, she is wrestling with a storm of internal contradictions, emotional impulses, instinctive drives, social pressure, and fears she would never voice out loud. You think it's about your worth. She thinks it's about her options, her timing, her expectations colliding with reality. This is the part men aren't supposed to know. A woman's initial rejection is often based on emotion in the moment, an impulse to pull away because of overwhelm, doubt, or comparison, not because she made a rational evaluation of you as a man. Women are encouraged to follow their feelings, even when those feelings are temporary, inconsistent, or shaped by outside influences. But when the emotional dust settles, when the excitement she chased dies down, when the attention she thought she'd receive fades, a quiet question hits her. Did I walk away from something stable, something real, something that might not come again? That question is why she looks back. Not because she suddenly realized you are perfect, not because she is ready for the connection she once resisted. She comes back because human psychology hates loss more than it values gain, and rejection once made becomes a type of loss for her too. A woman who rejected you is not immune to nostalgia, to curiosity, to the spike of interest that rises when she senses you've moved on or improved. She remembers the comfort, the attention, the effort you gave so generously. She remembers the version of herself she felt safe being around you. And when her world feels uncertain, she returns to the last place she felt steady. She doesn't return because she suddenly woke up with newfound clarity. She returns because something in her emotional world cracked open, and the stability she expected didn't meet her the way she imagined. A woman's rejection often comes from a place of emotional overflow. Too many choices, too many voices in her ear, too many expectations placed on her by friends, social media, past pain, and her own fears. When she pulled away from you, she wasn't just choosing no. She was choosing what felt easier in that specific moment. But ease rarely lasts, and emotion rarely stays still. What you need to understand is this: women are deeply influenced by emotional contrast. When she rejected you, she may have been comparing you to an idealized image of someone else, someone more exciting, more mysterious, more immediately stimulating. And yes, sometimes it was simply the allure of the unknown. But the unknown has a way of revealing its flaws quickly. That excitement she chased, it loses its shine. When inconsistency replaces attention, when ego replaces effort, when fantasy collides with the ordinary reality of who people truly are, and when that contrast becomes sharp enough, she starts remembering the man who offered certainty instead of confusion. Women come back when they feel the absence of what they once took for granted. They come back when they realize you weren't the problem. They were unprepared for the kind of presence you offered. A steady man can feel overwhelming to someone who hasn't learned to be steady within herself. She may have mistaken your reliability for boredom, your consistency for lack of excitement, your emotional clarity for predictability. But the moment life hands her chaos, those traits transform. Suddenly, your predictability looks like peace. Your reliability looks like strength. Your presence looks like the stability she couldn't find in people she chased after leaving you. Another truth she would never admit openly: women feel a powerful psychological pull. When a man they rejected stops chasing, it disrupts the script she expected. Rejection is supposed to end with your longing, your pursuit. your attempts to regain her attention. When that doesn't happen, when you grow, improve, distance, or simply move forward, she feels a loss of emotional power. Not malicious power, but the sense of being desired, valued, noticed. The moment that energy disappears, her mind begins to search for it again. That search often brings her right back to the doorstep of the man she previously dismissed. And beneath every return is an even deeper fear. Fear of making the wrong choice. Fear of starting over with someone new. Fear of losing a type of care she may not experience twice. Fear that you, the man she once rejected, might now be unavailable, uninterested, or too evolved to welcome her again. She appears again, not suddenly, but subtly. A like on an old photo. A message that doesn't say much but means everything. A question she already knows the answer to. These are not coincidences. They are signals, quiet tests, small probes into your emotional world to see if the door she once closed is still unlocked. Women rarely return with a direct confession. They return with hints, with softness, with a tone that feels familiar enough to stir old feelings, yet vague enough to protect their pride. And behind every small gesture is a psychological truth. Coming back after rejecting a man requires more vulnerability from her than she will ever admit. She comes back because something inside her changed, maybe gently, maybe violently. It could be the slow realization that the attention she once thought endless has limits. It could be the sudden collapse of a connection she believed would replace you. Or it could be that she's finally noticing what she missed while she was searching for something she couldn't define. People make choices from the level of awareness they have. Sometimes that awareness deepens only after they've walked away from the person they were meant to understand. And the man she once rejected begins to look different through hindsight, and not because you changed, but because she can now see the effort you gave with clearer eyes. She remembers the security, the patience, the way you listened. She remembers the way being around you made her feel grounded, wanted, safe. These are memories that grow louder when life becomes unpredictable. Humans often realize the value of stability only after they've tasted instability. What she dismissed as ordinary becomes rare. What she took lightly becomes meaningful. What she ignored becomes something she searches for again. Another layer of why she comes back lies in timing, one of the quiet forces that shape human relationships more than emotions do. You may have met her at a moment when she wasn't ready to choose someone with depth. Readiness isn't about age, it's about emotional maturity. If she was chasing validation, excitement, uncertainty, or freedom, your consistency might have felt like pressure rather than comfort. But time has a way of reshaping priorities. When the thrill fades and the noise settles, what once felt overwhelming now feels calming. What once felt too stable now feels like the very thing she lacked in the people she moved toward. Yet there is also the curiosity that never fully dies. The curiosity of what you've become without her. If you improved, grew, healed, or detached, she senses it. Women have an almost instinctive awareness of when a man they once knew has transformed, and transformation is magnetic. Not because she wants to claim you again, but because your growth triggers a reflection of her own choices. Still remember this. When she returns, she's not only revisiting you, she's revisiting the version of herself she felt safe being around you. She's revisiting the emotional space where she didn't have to perform, pretend, or compete. And that is a powerful draw, especially for someone who has spent time in connections where she felt invisible. When a woman comes back after rejecting you, it's rarely because she suddenly discovered a hidden love she overlooked. It's because life confronted her with truths she wasn't prepared to face. People don't return to places that made them feel small. They return to places where they once felt seen. And no matter how the story ended, you were a place where she felt something real, something grounding, something that didn't demand a performance. That emotional memory doesn't disappear. It lingers, and it calls her back when her world becomes too loud. She comes back because the version of herself she was when she rejected you is not the version she is now. Her mindset shifted. Her priorities shifted. Sometimes her confidence shifted. The energy she used to navigate the world changed. Every experience after you reshaped how she perceives relationships, effort, and emotional safety. That shift is what opens the door back to you. Not because she regrets the rejection, but because she outgrew the reason she made it. Think about what happens when a woman walks away chasing what she thinks she wants. She expects excitement. She expects clarity. She expects someone new to offer everything she didn't see in you. But reality is rarely that generous. She may find attraction, but not depth. She may find interest, but not consistency. She may find charm, but not emotional presence. And when the surface level spark fades, she's left comparing every new person to the stability you once gave without being asked. Another psychological force at play is loss of perceived value. When she rejected you, she believed, consciously or not, that she would always be the one with the upper hand. She believed you would remain available, waiting, orbiting, but the moment she senses that you've detached, that your attention has shifted, that your emotional world continues without her, something inside her reacts, not from entitlement, but from the innate human instinct to reevaluate something they no longer have access to. Scarcity changes perception. Your distance becomes magnetic. Your silence becomes intriguing. Your growth becomes undeniable. And there's another reason almost no one talks about emotional unresolvedness. When a relationship or connection ends abruptly, the brain hates the lack of closure. Women especially feel a pull towards situations where they left emotional threads hanging. She comes back not only to revisit you, but to revisit the version of herself she can't fully explain. She comes back because part of her wonders if walking away was an emotional reaction rather than a grounded decision. She comes back because the way you cared for her now feels different in memory, warmer, safer, more sincere than what she has experienced since. Her return is not a sign you must take her back. It is a sign you must understand your value. A woman returning is not proof of your worth. It is confirmation of what your presence created in her life. And whether you let her back in or close the door, you must act from strength, not longing. When she resurfaces after rejecting you, understand that her return is shaped by an emotional realization few women are willing to verbalize. She finally sees the difference between attention and intention. Many men give attention. Very few give intention. And intention is what she felt with you: effort, clarity, presence, the sense that you weren't just passing time, but building something. She may not have recognized its value then, but value doesn't disappear because someone failed to see it. It simply waits for awareness to catch up. Her return is often triggered by contrast. The world outside your connection didn't reflect what she thought it would. The people she met didn't offer the emotional reliability she assumed she would easily replace. She may have been chasing excitement, validation, novelty, but none of those things provide the grounded emotional experience she had with you. When she encounters inconsistency, indifference, or superficial connection, her mind naturally compares it to the environment you created. Comparison is a powerful psychological force, and when reality doesn't fill the space she expected, the absence becomes loud enough for her to hear what she once ignored. Another motivator for her return is emotional imprinting. Human relationships leave marks, deep ones. When someone treats you with sincerity, patience, or genuine care, it creates a psychological anchor. These anchors don't dissolve when a connection ends. They lie dormant until life activates them again. A moment of loneliness, a disappointment, a breakup, a period of reflection. All of these can trigger memories of the stability she felt with you. She might not want to revisit the past, but the past revisits her. And when it does, it pulls her toward the place where she once felt grounded. There is also the element of familiar vulnerability with you. She didn't have to perform. She didn't have to compete. She didn't have to hide the soft parts of herself. That kind of emotional space is rare, and while she may have sought something different, the world often teaches people slowly and painfully that genuine safety is not as common as they believe. When she realizes this, returning to someone who offered that safety becomes less about romance and more about internal clarity. She's not chasing you. She's chasing the version of herself that felt understood in your presence. Yet many men misunderstand her return. They assume it means she chose them. But a woman coming back doesn't mean she made a decision about you. It means she's making a decision about herself. She is choosing to re-examine what she once dismissed. She is choosing to explore a connection she never fully processed. She is choosing to confront emotions she once avoided. Her return is not about reclaiming you. It's about resolving her own internal conflict. Her return is not random. It is not accidental. It is not a coincidence you're overthinking. It is the result of a psychological cycle that almost every woman goes through when dealing with a man who once offered depth, consistency, and emotional grounding. When she rejected you, she believed she was stepping into something better, clearer, or more exciting. But life has a way of revealing truths slowly and sometimes brutally. And the truth she now faces is that you were not the disposable option she assumed you were. You are the kind of man whose value becomes more visible with distance. And distance changes everything. When you stop pursuing, stop waiting, stop hoping, she feels something she didn't expect. Emotional displacement. The energy she was once certain she could return to no longer belongs to her. She senses that you are no longer holding space for her, no longer orbiting her world, no longer giving her the effortless attention she once relied on. This shift in dynamic hits deeper than she will ever admit. Humans crave what they can't access, and when your presence becomes scarce, her mind begins to revisit the connection she once walked away from. She is also experiencing another internal conflict, one rooted in identity. When she was with you, she felt like a more grounded version of herself, not because you completed her, but because your emotional steadiness brought out her softer, calmer qualities. After leaving, she may have stepped into situations that activated stress, confusion, or insecurity. And when someone feels overwhelmed by new environments, their brain seeks the last place they felt regulated. You were that place. And the memory of that emotional stability pulls her back, not because she needs saving, but because the contrast between then and now is too sharp to ignore. Another silent force behind her return is unfinished emotional business. People do not like internal loose ends. That moment she rejected, you may have been driven by fear rather than clarity, by pressure rather than logic, by emotion rather than understanding. With time, she begins to question whether the choice she made was aligned with who she truly is or who she was trying to be. That uncertainty becomes a weight she carries, and returning to you becomes a way to make sense of the unresolved feelings she still holds, feelings she hoped would fade, but instead grew louder. But here is the truth every man must hear. A woman returning does not mean she is meant for your future. Her return is a mirror, not a promise. A moment for you to assess whether the man you have become still fits the story she walked out of. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to choose growth over history. Her return is not authority. It is an invitation, and you get to decide whether to accept it. So now the question becomes yours. If the woman who once rejected you came back today, asking for another chance, would you offer forgiveness or closure? Answer in the comments and subscribe, and share this video with a man who needs this.